Meet Lindsay Bussey, a teacher of English, agency, and social justice at Aragon High School in California. He makes over $100,000 a year after receiving her EdD at Loyola Marymount. And she'll later explain why such a high salary is an act of racism inflicted on her to help soothe the violence perpetrated on her by her white colleagues. As Porter Wagoner once sang, misery loves company, and Lindsay Bussey is miserable. So last October, she rounded up 8 equally miserable black female teachers to coalesce in a a focus group to explain why they hate white people and what white people can do about it. All the while, demonstrating what happens to a person's psyche when they listen too long to race scammers like Sharpton and Umar Johnson. The whole point of a doctoral-level study is for the student to demonstrate that they can independently contribute meaningfully to our knowledge base, but Bussey's EdD doesn't tell us anything other than proving that some people will find racism under every rock and pebble. And if you think I'm exaggerating, hang on. The tears are going to flow and your brain is going to melt. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
The rise of the intellectually bankrupt EdD is to blame for many of our ills in education. I have shown you in past videos the bogus scholarship of EdDs by Rashad Ritchie and Jill Biden, and today we have another shining example of what happens when the desire to be called doctor meets raw laziness. Now, we are focusing today on the black supremacist. They are a small minority of the black population. So before I begin, please note that I'm not picking on the majority of black people in this video who, unlike Bussey and her compadres, manages to get along with other people. As a white dude, I'll admit that we have embarrassments of our own. And so it begins.
Langston Hughes' 1922 poem, Mother to Son, was a beautiful love letter from an elder to a younger member of the black community. While the poem's title indicated a familial relationship, one did not have to be a parent to resonate with this love letter. This poem was considered a love letter because it was an act of love, to suffer through pitfalls of life.
This elder of the black community probably wouldn't have been able to earn a doctorate because of intense poverty or racism. On the other hand, they practically gave you one stuffed in a Christmas stocking. I added up the total time it took for her to formulate the research tools, perform the interviews, and analyze the results to about 10 hours. I'm not joking. They gave her a doctorate for this.
Instead of bitterness, the response was to help others have an easier or safe journey.
Instead of bitterness? Look who's talking. This entire EdD is just industrial strength bitterness. Whatever that black elder did to push aside the bitterness, why don't you try it?
This poem was an exemplar of the village adage that worked to provide protection and guidance for the younger generation, a hallmark of the black community.
I don't mean to bag on black communities. We have our own trailer parks. But this silly notion that black communities are close-knit, symbiotic villages where they offer each other protection and are always there to provide a support system for the downtrodden is just an acid-induced hallucination. Tell me, where is this village?
When they were the only black person or one of the few on school campus, black educators were typically forced to handle all things black. All things black could include advocating for all black students, speaking as a representative of all black people, and sometimes being made the advisor for the Black Student Union.
Forced to handle? When white people tried doing this, they were told to stay in their lane. How many times have we been told that you have to hire black people and therefore discriminate against everyone else so that there are educators on staff that can do these things? In fact, your ideal position to carry out these tasks were probably talking points on your resume when you applied for the position. I also find it funny how they considered these roles such chores. It's terrible that I have to advocate for black students and speaking out on their concerns. Oh, my God, why can't they just leave me alone to do what I want to do? Teach. Well, ask the other teachers because they all have the same gripe. You really think that you're the only teacher who has to help plan the Thanksgiving PTA meeting?
Before desegregation, teaching was a popular, lucrative, and honorable profession in the black community.
Lucrative? When was teaching ever lucrative in this country? Especially in the days before desegregation. And are you saying that teaching is no longer considered honorable within the black community?
Patterson explained that BWEs in segregated schools felt an obligation and sense of duty to protect black children both inside and outside the school. Communication with families occurred at home, in church, and in other locations within the black community. The teachers often taught multiple generations of students, strengthening the bonds between BWEs and the black community. The close relationships between BWEs' parents and the community influenced students' success.
This is called pining for the good old days, before they integrated our schools and the Army. Back then, the black community would gather around the end of the rainbow after a gentle rain and lock arms, inhale the sweet aroma of friendship, and sing the gospel in sweet harmony. Now, I think things might have been better in many respects prior to desegregation. Don't know. I'm not black and I wasn't around at that time, but someone needs to lay off the aerosol-laced incense.
The cornerstone of black education was lost due to integration.
Whoa!
Emden described the presumably permanent decrease in black educators as a butterfly effect from which the black community has never recovered. He noted that this decrease broke a major tradition in black communities that previously revered the teacher as much as the preacher, because their works require being both educative and soul-affirming. Instead, black educators as of the 2017-2018 school year comprised only 7% of the nation's teaching force. Therefore, black children across the country were matriculating through school, only seeing one or two black educators, if they saw any at all.
So what happened to this diversity is our strength motto that you blast through your megaphones? You are literally arguing against diversity. You're complaining that the non-diverse school system of the good old days, where black kids were taught only by black educators, was better than today, where they are exposed to educators from a broad range of cultures. So let's look at the research questions. Number 1 says,
how BWEs perceive the challenges and socio-emotional effects of working in school spaces with predominantly white staff.
It was a nice trick to slip that question mark in there, but that's not a question. That's right, the research question in her dissertation is not a question.
Number 2, what conditions were needed to be created for BWEs to heal and feel safe?
There are no such conditions because you will never feel safe because you don't want to feel safe.
While Love detailed that black students who attended schools with predominantly white teaching staff experienced soul-crushing and psychological trauma, the same was said for the experiences of BWEs. Both black students and staff alike endured white rage.
Now, let's read this again, but with a twist.
While Love detailed that white students who attended schools with predominantly black teaching staff experienced soul-crushing and psychological trauma, the same was said for the experiences of white female educators. Both white students and staff alike endured black rage.
That's racist.
That was racist.
Yeah, that's racist.
Oh, that is racist.
Being physically and socio-emotionally traumatized by literal rocks being thrown at them and figurative rocks that took the form of racial slurs.
Literal rocks? I'm trying to picture the teacher's lounge where teachers bring their lunches to eat and rocks to throw.
Hi, I'm the most local person in here.
Significance of the study.
Now that's pretty simple. This study is insignificant.
The study served as a love letter to and in solidarity with past, present, and future BWEs who dedicated their lives to an educational system that continued to be violent toward them.
Oh, that's funny. I thought that dissertations were meant to be for the knowledge base and not love letters. I don't think I've ever heard anyone describing a research study as a love letter, and I hope I never hear it again.
This study was significant for the members of the black community.
Was? So it no longer is? Wow. This study had a shorter shelf life than a modern pop country song.
The research design was a qualitative study focusing on ethnomethodology. According to Levy, ethnomethodology examined the different strategies people use to make meaning of their lives and experiences with others.
In short, you ask a, say, Hispanic man about his experiences as a child, then what he tells you is a reflection of his Hispanicness, and as such, should be believed as gospel. Because if there's any skepticism about what he tells you, then you can't count it as data. Now, one thing I'm tired of is seeing one qualitative research project after another that cites some highfalutin method for analyzing the data, but does nothing more than read the responses and cherry pick out a few to include in their results.
Reflexivity, one of the main concepts of ethnomethodology, focused on how common sense knowledge helped people understand the interactions that were occurring.
In other words, when you see a white police officer telling a black motorist to get out of a car and becoming increasingly frustrated that the black motorist refuses to do so, then reflexivity would say that it was only natural for a person of authority to get upset when a person refuses to obey his commands. Now, before you say, well, that makes perfect sense, then you don't understand the humanities. Listen to the next sentence.
Common sense, while intended to be a shared baseline of knowledge, was often normed to whiteness.
So that whole thing about it being natural for a cop to get frustrated when a suspect refuses to follow orders, well, that's just because you're looking at this from a perspective of whiteness. Getting out of the car because you were ordered to do so by a man carrying a gun is just the white way of responding, reflexing. And if you're black and you still think it's a good idea to get out of the car, well, you're not off the hook because whiteness permeates your entire worldview because you've been educated by white teachers.
So what happened when common sense conflicted with ancestral knowledge? Emden recalled Joy DeGruy's definition of post-traumatic slavery syndrome.
That's right, post-traumatic slavery syndrome,
in which present-day black people sense the same stress, fear, and danger their enslaved ancestors felt because it is carried in their genetic codes.
The black suspect feels heightened stress, fear, and danger because he's descended from slaves. And if you look at his genes under an electron microscope, you'll see the slavery gene that triggers these emotions. So the black suspect, being a descendant of slaves, can't be faulted for acting irrationally to the cop's orders because his past enslavement genetically coded him to not take commonsensical routes to de-escalate the terror he feels. And the stress, fear, and danger that he feels is the same as his enslaved ancestors felt.
Hey, that's more like, zany or goofy. Yeah. It's the wrong kind of loco.
As for those cops who mistreat suspects, oh, they can't be blamed. You see, they have that plantation owner gene in them. Yes, it really is that dumb. Luckily, this mindset is relegated to black supremacists who believe that black people would be superior in every way to white people if white people hadn't inflicted on them their own inadequacies. And yeah, it's racist. It's no better than white supremacism.
Yeah, that's racist.
This ancestral knowledge was common sense for black people. The research strived to determine how ancestral knowledge, coupled with white-normed common sense, influenced and affected the way BWEs interacted with their predominantly white colleagues.
And if you're thinking this provides BWEs an excuse for any time they interact poorly with their white colleagues, you nailed it. And you can't accuse them of racism because they've already decided that black people can't be racist. So they can't be racist and they can't be blamed for any untoward mistreatment of others because of the slavery gene. And yeah, I know that most black people are smart enough to shy away from this insanity. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Black people are just like other people. The vast majority lead clean lives, work hard, and get along. It's the black supremacists who find racism in every nook and cranny, and Lindsay is one of them. Okay, so I'm a little tired, and I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm going to finish up with part 2 tomorrow, and it's going to get dumber. And I'm not joking. We're going to learn about racial battle fatigue and racial cognitive dissonance and, get this, spirit murder. We'll also look at the methodology, including the questions that were asked of the participants, and they're real doozies. So stay tuned for part 2. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.